Boo-hoo, I have anxiety. I can't even draw a circle right. Anxiety is a huge problem in our modern day. It seems like everyone has one or more mental health issues related to anxiety. Now, I don't think there's a perfect solution for everyone, but there are definitely some steps to take to help quell these. I believe that most of our problems come from our environment. I'm no doctor, but I am a creator, and I've been dealing with artistic anxiety for years. Our environment plays a big role into how we perceive life. It characterizes our interactions. One man will see rain in the forecast and feel sad. The other will be happy because he doesn't have to wash his car today. You see, it's all about mindset, and before you go poking holes in that idea, it's just a hypothetical. If you don't know what a hypothetical is, consider consulting a dictionary. Perhaps you should consult a hypothetical dictionary. I feel like we can start by identifying where our anxieties come from. It's not always straightforward. Sometimes it's about peeling back the layers and getting to the core of the issue. So let's start with me. I feel as though my biggest anxiety comes from the idea that everyone's just blowing smoke up my ass. It's always a question in the back of my mind, if the praise people give me is genuine or like what you'd tell a toddler to keep them happy. It's that feeling of distrust, that everyone's lying to you no matter how sincere they sound. Well, that's the one that really gets me. You probably feel or have felt the same way. Any artist would, especially if they're getting too deep in their own head. There are ways that I've found to help pull me out of that mindset. Usually it involves shutting off, doing something completely different. It's hard to feel anxious when your mind's already preoccupied. But that brings me into my next section. When does anxiety start? Usually for me it tends to strike when I'm alone and doing nothing. I'll be sitting at my desk, rotting away. Not even playing a game or listening to anything, just sitting there. When anxiety plants itself in my head. Some people like to personify their anxieties as a formless black entity, but I'm not going to be so generic. It's more like a weed. If you ignore it for a while, it'll set in and be difficult to pull out. But if you address it while it's still young and fresh, you'll be in significantly better shape to remove it. Anxiety is not something to bargain with or to ignore. You're in control, and it's up to you to excise it. You'll notice it seems to crop up at the worst of times too. Your anxieties seek to destroy your mentality and drain it from the root. It has to be maintained, otherwise it'll cripple your mind. Why do we hold these anxieties? It seems like the easiest thing in the world to just say, get over it. But you'll only find this sentiment coming from the mouths of people who have had it good their whole lives. Or those who are lying to you and themselves without knowing it. Maybe it's just a facade of suffering. You'll never hear that from someone who has internalized the horrors of this world. It's an idea spewed forth by those lucky enough to have never experienced a traumatic event, people who have never been forced to live life. Acquaintances and possibly family members that seek to tear you down merely because you bothered to improve yourself and ask, why do you hold on to this? I've felt this for years. Dealing with your mind being the enemy. You may find your anxieties lay somewhere in the external. It may be someone or something causing you to feel this way, and it might be time to make some changes. It seems as though we hang on to these anxieties just because it becomes comfortable. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to anyone who hasn't gone through it, but it's surprisingly hard to ignore your subconscious mind. The more it talks to you, the more you start to believe it. Who's the most susceptible to these thoughts? I feel like it's a universal idea. I don't think anyone is truly free of it. There are times when I'll be feeling at the top of the world and then the idea strikes. Does anyone even care? If I drop dead tomorrow, who's going to be at my funeral? And everyone feels this. Whether it be an existential question or the fear that your car is going to die on you. It comes in many forms, but I think the stressed, overworked artists have some of the worst I've seen. You could be afraid of becoming successful, or even feel anxious due to a lack of success. It weighs on the mind like a stone crown. At the very least, a lack of success can be fixed by changing a few things. Either change up your art style, maybe start working more, get your work out there. On the inverse, you may be anxious to change once you start to gain success. What if my audience doesn't like it? Well, let's be serious. Your audience came to you for your art and opinion. You're not always going to please everyone, and that's okay. It's about making a statement and putting yourself out there. Where does anxiety impact my work? I feel like it tends to hurt people the most by tapping into their fear and complacency. This combo sets us up for failure and reaffirmation of our original anxiety. It forces you to stagnate and never push your boundaries. It wants you in a box where it can keep you contained. You'll never feel better unless you fight back, with a few tricks of your own. You can't expect it to go away entirely on its own. You need rest, medicine, and possibly a doctor. Or in your case, someone to talk to. It's all about setting yourself up for success, and part of that is seeking help when you need it. If you say you'll never be able to do it, you'll end up sealing your own fate, and allow your anxieties to control you.
Do you have anxiety? Well, I've got the pills for you. They make you feel. He loves it.
What can we do to fix it? There are many ways to go about fixing your mental health. Some things come down to your diet and environment. Other things are going to be determined by your worldview. One of the best things you can do is identify where your anxieties come from. Figure out whether they're coming from mental or from the physical. One of the best ways to wean yourself out of that mindset is to distract yourself. You can't be anxious if you're already doing something else. It's why I enjoy models and drawing. It keeps my mind preoccupied with the next project instead of, when is the sun gonna explode? I think a big thing to remember is that you can't fight it alone. You need to find friends and family that will be there for you. It's not gonna magically fall out of the sky, so you're gonna need to put some effort in. But with a little bit of love in your heart and kindness on your tongue, you'll get through it. There are many ways to fight anxiety. It's just a matter of identifying where it comes from. You'll be able to get through the bulk of it by keeping yourself busy with the projects and art, or by pushing yourself in a healthy and creative way. In conclusion, make some time to make yourself better, and eat a cinder block.